What's going on, guys? Kimmy K here, coming at you with one of my informative videos. Today, as you see, we are going to be talking about macros, which are macronutrients, excuse me, which are your proteins, your carbs, and your fat. So, a lot of the times, people will track their macros. That might sound familiar. So, they're tracking how much protein, carb, and fat intake they're intaking. So, it's fairly simple. I'm not a mathematician. Math was never my strong suit. But I want to show you guys, instead of throwing your numbers into a calculator, I want to show you what the calculator is calculating, if that makes sense. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So as you see, I have two equations here, fairly similar, small differences right here at the end. This is going to be the equation to find your resting energy expenditure, which is the first step you need to do in order to find your caloric need. So all you're going to do, ladies, this is your equation right here, and fellas, yours is on the bottom right here. So all we're going to do is insert our own numbers. And with that being said, you guys, these are my numbers. These are the levels and guidelines that I'm taking for my personal self. Mind you, everybody's body is going to be different. Everybody's goals are different, and everybody reacts to macro intake and guidelines differently. So before you start playing with your numbers and doing this yourself, if you want to go beyond the general rule of thumb, definitely consult your dietitian or a doctor before you do this. Back at it. So this is the equation that I'm going to be using. Okay, so if you come down here, you'll see for me, I'll have 10 times my weight in kilograms, which is 110.6, plus 6.25, plus my height in centimeters. Please be mindful of that. It's not inches. Mind you, it's centimeters. I made that mistake earlier. Like I said, not a mathematician. So 6.25 plus 170, move this out the way, minus 5 times my age minus 161. Okay. After you compute that, please believe I put it in a calculator because PEMDAS, wow. So my total calories for my resting energy expenditure, which is how many calories my body burns while I'm at rest if I'm just chilling on the couch for me to be alive. This is how many calories I would need to be sufficient in that. So 1,877.5 calories as my REE. Now, next step is to find your total daily energy expenditure, which includes your activity factor or how much you work out. So I don't work out as hard as I used to with the gyms being closed, but I still try to stay fairly active. So I'm going to put myself as moderate, and I'm going to take this numerical value and I'm going to multiply it by my calorie count, my REE calorie count. Okay, so multiplying it by 1.5, that will give me 2,816 calories. I'm just going to take away the 0.25 because I don't even know, like maybe a bite of spinach is 0.25 calories. No idea. But anyway, so my total daily energy expenditure. So this takes into account the days that I exercise. So the days I exercise, I'm going to be burning roughly around this amount of calories. So now I have my total daily calories. This is it right here. That's roughly the amount of calories that I am allowed to eat if I wanted to maintain the weight I was at right now. But we know the only way to lose weight is to have a caloric deficit. So I have to consume less or work off an amount of calories that will equate to less than 28. So general rule of thumb when it comes to weight loss is a 500 calorie deficit per day because that's going to equal a 1 pound weight loss a week. All right, you guys. So now we're going to be calculating calories per macro. Now we're really getting into it. We're finally figuring out our actual macros. So a few things that you need to know before we start this is the USDA recommends these broad guidelines. Mind you, they're very broad, these broad guideline percentages for total calories. So like I said, the percentage that you're about to see are on a very broad spectrum. That's why if you plan to play around with your numbers, please make sure you consult a dietitian. Things that we have to know: carbohydrates. They make up 45 to 65% of your daily calories, and per gram, there is 4 calories. Down to proteins, 10% to 35% of your daily calories, also 4 calories per gram. And then fats should be 20 to 35% of calories, and fats are 9 calories per gram, so they're a little bit more calorically dense. So for myself, balance is my goal. So if I take my 500 calorie deficit subtracted by my TDEE, okay, that's going to give me 2,316 calories. I'm just going to round that down to a total of 2,300 calories is going to be my daily caloric cap. So I shouldn't be consuming no more than 2,300 calories if I would like to reach my goal of losing a pound a week. So with this number, we can continue on to our next equations, or our final equations. So now we're figuring out how many grams we're allowed to have per macro. So I'm going to be doing a balanced split, so 35% carbs, 35% protein, and 30% fat. So the way I figure that out is I'm going to take my daily caloric cap, multiply it by 0.35, that's my 35%, and that gives me 805 calories per day. So my calories from carbohydrates and proteins can be 805 per day, right? So since carbohydrates and proteins have 4 calories per gram, I'm going to divide that by the 805, and that will give me the total grams I am allowed to have per macro. So I can have a cap of 201.25 grams of carbohydrates and proteins. Okay? So same equation, similar steps, trying to figure out my fat intake now. So 2,300 times 0.3, that's going to give me 690 calories per day. So 690 calories are going to be coming from fats in my day. Okay, so like peanut butter, nuts, oils, butter, so on and so forth. Now to find the grams, I'm going to take 690 divided by 9 because it's 9 calories per gram. Okay, so 690 divided by 9, I am allowed to have 76.6 grams of fat per day. So if you add up 805 plus 805 plus 690, that will give you the 2,300 calorie cap. So these are the amounts of grams I'm allowed to have of carbohydrates and proteins. This 76.6 is the amount of grams of fat I am allowed to have in a day. And this is where the tracking comes into play. Reading the nutrition label is going to be very, very important because that's how we get an idea of how much carbs, proteins, and fats and other nutritional values are in what we eat. That's why people track.
Well, there you go, guys. I hope that helped. If things need to be clarified or something doesn't make sense to you, hit me up. I'll try my best to clarify for you. Like I said previously, be careful when you're handling these numbers and debating out your quantities and your guidelines. Make sure you consult who you have to consult. I just use the general balance guidelines for my own numbers to see how it will work. Any other information you need to find, you can go to USDA. I'm also going to attach a link from Ace Fitness, who I'm certified by, who has a ton of articles that you can read through if you're looking for more information. So I'll have that link down in the description box. But until then, make sure you drink your water, eat your vegetables, wash your hands, look inside the mirror to remind yourself that you're great. Until next time, shoots!